So again, if yin is new to you, or at least my style of yin, I'll use a timer. I have an app on my phone. I'm not checking my phone, I promise. It's just the best way I can use to make sure that we're doing the same time on both sides if there is a side. And it's a nice way to just sort of check out and not worry about the time, knowing that I'm not leaving you there forever. So again, if you have props, grab them. If not, no big deal. A lot of our practice is suggested shapes. So if I give you a pose, specifically like this first one is a reclined butterfly, there's lots of ways to get into it. So it's a suggested shape. You just do the one that works for you. So the way that we're going to start this first pose, we've got possibly a bolster. Again, this is just an option. I like to put a block under that. And I'm going to use my blankets as well. I'm going to set up for a reclined butterfly. Move my tea. I can imagine I would spill that. All right. So as we get started, sit in a comfortable position. So I'm choosing to use the bolster. Again, this could easily be 2 blankets. It could be a 2-block heart opener. There could be no props, no big deal. And we're going to start reclining. We'll be here for about 5 minutes. So I will get our timer started. Okay. So as you lie back, if you're using the bolster, sit as close as you can. And then I like to have props under the knees. I like to be a little bit more restorative than yin-like in the very first pose. So I'm going to take my blankets, slide them under my knees, arms out to the sides, palms open, where you're finding your reclined butterfly in a way that's comfortable for you. Let the eyes close. And just take a few moments to observe the breath. What is the breath telling you? What's the relationship between your breath and your body? And let's see if we can create a little bit more length in the breath. So start to move the breath in and out through the nose. And then we want to lengthen the breath. And so let's actually find a little bit longer exhale than inhale. That'll calm the mind and nervous system. Take an inhale through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale out the nose for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4. And exhale for 6. Continue on your own. Inhale 4. And exhale 6. Take a couple more rounds on your own. And eventually the breath might take on its own pattern. And as now our nervous system is beginning to relax, you might feel like lowering down those props. If you have blankets like me, you can maybe lower them 1. Or maybe you have blocks, you can lower those or move them out of your way. And what I really like about these blankets is I can actually slide them up if I want and have them underneath my arms. And so our yin practice is a practice of learning to be still. And some days it'll be easy. You'll find that you're very easily sort of settling into the pose. Other days there's a lot of fidgeting, a lot of moving. And each time you notice you're having trouble really settling in, adjust, sort of commit to the new place. And then see if you can find those long breaths again. Those long exhales will drop you in. We've got about 90 seconds left here. This practice will be the kidneys and urinary bladder lines along the inner thighs, along the back thighs, and along the spine. And so we'll do poses that affect those areas. And then the kidney and urinary bladder meridian lines, they really create the foundation for all the other organs. And so it's a great place to start our practice. Great. So go ahead and take your hands to your outer knees, guide your legs together, and inhale, reach the arms overhead. Interlace the fingers, reach the arms back behind you. Maybe yawn. Yawning is great. It tells the nervous system to relax. I always encourage a yawn. All right, relax the arms. Now, if you have props behind you, leave them as they are. You're just going to roll to your right side. Press yourself up and stay where you are. So the right hip is against the bolster, or maybe that was 2 blankets, or even if you use blocks, you can do the same thing, just flatten them. So make sure both blocks are a flat size if that's what you have behind you. You're going to take a hand on either side of the props. We're moving into a deer twist, or if you don't have any props or this isn't comfortable, any twist is fine. So a hand on either side of the props if you have it. Right hip is against the bolster or your props. Lift your chest, pull your chest towards the back of your mat, and you're trying to square your heart out towards those props or the floor. And then slowly begin to lower. Now your legs are going to be staggered or stacked. We'll get our timer started so we're not here longer than we need. We'll be here about 3 minutes, or actually about 2.5. So just start to get set up into your pose, into your deer twist, or any other version of a twist. And I'm going to turn this up. I don't believe you heard it before. So notice the legs. If you have low back sensitivity, bring the knees a little closer together. If you want to stagger the legs, you can get more into the front line of this back thigh. And for me, I found when I did this on my own today, I actually really liked having that out from underneath. And then turn so the left ear is against the bolster or your prop. Great. And take a few breaths here. Just let the arms rest, the eyes soften. And then allow the breath to move into your back body. With each inhale, feel the back ribs expand. And each exhale, feel the front body surrender. Inhale, space. Exhale, surrender into that new space. Remember, everything is changeable. So if it's challenging, if it's uncomfortable to have the left ear against the bolster, you can always turn and have the right ear against the prop. So choose the position that works best for you. We've got about 10 breaths left here. Feel that breath move into the back body. Slide your hands back. Press yourself up to seated. And if you're using any props like I am here, turn so that your back is against the props. And then just keep turning so that your left hip is near the props. Or you can switch to side 2 of your twist. You're going to place your hands on either side of your props. Pull your chest forward, find length. And again, legs can either be stacked or staggered. I prefer the staggered so I can really get into the front right leg. So hands on either side, pull the chest towards the back, and then slowly settle in. And again, we'll be here about 2.5 minutes. For me, I know it's not comfortable to turn my right ear down, so I'm going to stay with my left ear down for a little bit longer. You can always come up, re-lengthen and adjust, and settle back in. And move into the same breathing count that you did on side 1. Some of you took those long exhales. And some of you just simply worked with the breath. So inhaling, feeling the back ribs expand. And exhaling, feeling the front body surrender. And just continue that on your own. Inhale, space into the back. Exhale, surrender. About 90 seconds left. So the poses themselves may not be that challenging, but as we add time, as we add gravity, they become a much different animal, much different posture. And so in this practice, notice, where are the sensations? Is that something you can breathe into? Can you create space around it? Since you're at home, you may be distracted by noises or thoughts. Go ahead and slide the hands back, press yourself up. Find your way to center. Use those distractions. You may have animals that are jumping on you, or partners or kids in the other rooms. And so use those things. You can use those things to bring your attention to your body. As soon as you notice you get sort of taken out of your practice, observe it, notice it, come right back to the body. So we're going to move into a wide butterfly. So normally in butterfly, the feet might be right up close to the body, but we're going to take the feet, we're going to move them about 1 foot away. So it's a nice wide butterfly. And I'm actually going to take a blanket just on top of my feet. This feels really nice for me. And the way I like to do the wide butterflies, I like to slide my arms under my legs and just kind of rest my arms and then rest my forehead. And everyone's different. Sometimes in class, I'll see some of my students adding a block in front of them and maybe using the bolster there. And it's a nice way to relax. So any way you find that this wide butterfly is comfortable for you, go ahead and go with that. We're going to be here 3 minutes. So just start to settle in. Spine is round. And the breath is moving. Okay, how are we doing? So in this wide butterfly, you might feel how we're really starting to get into the lines of the outer hips and down the legs and up through the back body, the sacrum area and along the spine. And so just take a few moments, get yourself set up. You might sort of be in a partway pose like I am. I'm just sort of resting my forearms. And we want to come to an appropriate edge. So I could go as deep as I wanted right away, but then I would find my body resisting and wanting to back off. So I like to kind of take myself to what I might call stage 1. So I'm comfortable here, I can relax. And then in a few breaths, I might start to lower myself down and just sort of play my edge slowly as I move into my final pose. So maybe we start to settle a little bit more. And same thing as before, you can really breathe into the back body. And then feel the front body release. If you have any low back sensitivities like a herniation in the disc, then you probably want to eliminate this. You may want to do butterfly with the legs close, maybe not folding forward, or you might even do butterfly at the wall. So maybe you may have a wall. As we move through these kidney and urinary bladder lines, we're moving into this place of real wisdom in the body. So when we're imbalanced in this system, we may find anxiety or fear, which I think is common right now. And so I really chose the sequence because we may be playing with that. You may even find in these poses a bit of the body reacting or not fully settling, but just use that. We're moving out of that anxiety, out of that stress response, and more into a wisdom relaxation response. So give yourself time. It may not happen right away. We've got about 5 breaths left. Go ahead and roll yourself out slowly. Nothing is ever fast. We're sort of stressing the tissues, and so we want to give them time to just sort of connect to the new circulation and movement that we've created. So from here, we're going to lie on our belly, and whatever you have available, a blanket or a bolster, you might want to have in front of you. If you have any low back sensitivities, you might throw a blanket underneath your belly. We're going to move into Sphinx or Seal. We'll be here about 3 minutes as well. So I'm just using the blanket for my forearms. You can always use a bolster under the elbows if you want to lift up a little higher. I don't believe that I'm going to probably do that myself today, so I'm not going to worry about that. And we'll be here 3 minutes again. So just feel how we're working into the back lines. We're not active, so you don't need to activate the legs. You can let the legs relax. Just allowing that gentle compression of the vertebrae at the lower back. And as we move through this series, we're learning to connect to the fluidity of the body. All the fluids of the body are energetic quality of going with the flow, the ability to let go. This is reasonable for you. Stay here. Some of you may take your props under your elbows. You can even take those hands wide and come up into seal. So just stretching through the front body and the back body. Remember, sometimes backing off is going deeper, so if ever you need to come out before the timer or you need to adapt your pose or even change your pose, feel free. The timer is just a suggestion that you're in your body, so part of our practice is learning to be more connected to the body, learning to read those subtle signals. All right, so take a moment to rest. We'll just lower all the way down. Close the eyes and just notice, where is that new warmth and circulation, maybe at the lower back, the abdomen. Feel that rush of fluidity to those new areas that we found. And then move slow. So you're going to come up hands and knees. We're going to move into our dragon series or our lunge series. And if your low back or your knees rather don't feel like they're happy with this, I'll give you some options. So if you are taking the lunges, for me, I just like a little bit of padding. I'm going to use my blocks. And if you were here on Monday, I believe I did this, where we sort of took our leg wide. I'm not 90 degrees on the back leg, but I've more extended it. So we'll be here. We'll allow the leg to move out to the side, and a few of you might reach for the back ankle. If this is not for you, half saddle is fine, which is a little bit more challenging. Or at any time, you can take a prop under the pelvis. It could even be a, pillow from the couch or something, and you could take this version. You can always move to the side. So this sort of supported bridge is always a nice option if the lunges are not working. Okay, so decide which one you'd like. We're going to be here for about 4 minutes, so it's a good amount of time. Get yourself set up. Timer is started. And really listen to the body. If you need to come out early, please do. Remember, since we're here 4 minutes, you have time. So maybe don't go as deep as you can right away. You'll find your body sort of really trying to back out of that. So it's in this pose. Usually in class, I have students telling me, oh, this was really hard. It's a hard pose. So don't let the props fool you. You really can get pretty intense in these postures. The difference between the restorative postures and yin, even if yin sometimes uses props, is restorative, we don't want to feel any stretch. It's really more about being completely relaxed in the nervous system. Where here we are creating a sensation where we're stressing the tissues in a healthy way to promote circulation and health to those tissues. And it's also a great way to train the meditative mind. So when you feel a sensation, you can locate the sensation, and then you can ask yourself, is this something that I can create space around? Can I breathe into it? Can you become more responsive, less reactive? And so it sort of gives us that life planning to take a step back when we get stressed. Maybe you're dropping down a little lower. I was about to, but my body said no. So you're listening to your body. And also, what's the point of getting to the end of the pose anyway? Part of this is about the journey. So really taking the time, really breathing into it. If that leg is starting to tip out to the side, turn the toes out about 45 degrees. You might lower onto the left palm or forearm, but again, this is all relative to you. Just explore. There's no one right pose. It's just a suggested shape. So our target area is getting into the front of the back thigh, into that hip flexor, the front leg, the abdomen. We have about 90 seconds left. This may be enough. A few of you may reach for that back ankle. Use your breath wherever you are. Come out early. Just enjoy that space. It's usually right about now. You're wondering if the timer is going, so know that it's still there. We've got less than 60 seconds. All right, take your time. We've been here a little while. Back yourself out slowly. And then take a rebound pose. It might just be a rest like I'm in. You might stretch the hamstrings, but just take a moment, observe the sensation. And then whatever you did, let's do side two. Timer's already going. And remember to take your time moving into this. We don't need to get as deep as we can right away. We want something that's sustainable. When we feel balanced in the kidney, urinary, bladder lines, we're able to sort of take in and digest life. We're able to sort of move forward. When we're stuck here, we might feel a little bit more anxious, a little bit more fearful. And you might even notice that in releasing the hip flexors. Your hip flexors, their job is to protect you. So anytime you're in stress, real or imaginary, they engage. And since we have many stressors throughout our day, and maybe even more now, those hip flexors are always turned on. You may feel them as low back sensitivities or even cramps or abdominal issues. And so as you're starting to release them, even though we think that would make us feel safe, their natural stress response is to react, to try to protect you. So it may take a little coaxing. It may take backing off, taking a few breaths, moving in. Again, there's no one right way. Take your time. You find the mind wandering, totally natural. Notice where it goes, try to bring it back, and really try to come back to the present. Oftentimes we move to the future, so see if you can come back to the present, the sensation in the breath. And what's really good for staying present is connecting to sound. So obviously you may hopefully be able to hear me, and that's when it starts to sound. But most of us like to practice in a studio because our homes are not quiet. So instead of trying to block out those noises, use them as a meditation. What can you hear besides me? And just start to see what's closest, what's furthest. Can you hear in layers? Do these things create a memory? We've got about 60 seconds left. Just really let your ears be open. What do you find? All right, move slowly. We're in no rush, even though it seems like we might be. Maybe you've already come out of the pose, and that's fine. Take a moment to just rebound, whatever you did on side one. Maybe close the eyes. And then we're going to take a moment of rest in child's pose. So child's pose, however it's comfortable for you. And just allow your forehead to relax. We'll be here just about a minute, a good 10 breaths. And slowly roll yourself up. We're going to set up for Janu Shavasana or half dragonfly. So maybe you're still using a blanket, that's optional. You can sit at the edge of the blanket. And my hamstrings are pretty tight, so I'm going to use my second blanket underneath my knee. Again, these are optional things. This could be a towel or a sweatshirt or something. It doesn't have to be anything extreme, and you may not even use the props. I just happen to have them. So I figure I can show you with more, and then you can always do less. It's really up to you. Okay, so right leg is straight, bending the left knee. Maybe there's a prop under the knee and the hips. That's up to you. I just happen to have these blocks nearby, so I'm going to use them on either side of my leg. And we're going to be in this pose for 3 minutes. So you can go ahead and shift yourself forward, and then just rest your arms either on your props or on the ground. Timer is going. And again, we're not trying to get a perfect pose. So in another class, I might tell you to really lengthen and pull your chest forward. But in this posture, we're really trying to stretch the the lines behind the legs and along the spine. So we want to fold, we want to really round and really get into those tissues along the spine. If you're using the props like I am, you might cross your forearms. You can rest your forehead on your forearms. Any way this was making sense for you. As you feel the body dropping in, you might lower your props or remove them. About 90 seconds left. Bring yourself out. We'll switch sides. So straighten the left leg, bend the right knee. If you were using props, you can bring those back up. And just take a moment to get yourself settled. Timer is going. And then when you're ready, begin to fold in. Shavasana. Half Dragonfly. So if you're ever doing these postures on your own and you don't want to use a timer, I just do this so I can talk and I make sure that I haven't forgotten about you, haven't forgotten about the timing. And I do like this timer. But sometimes it's not conducive. Sometimes it's nice just to do a few poses on your own. And so oftentimes I just simply count the breath and make sure the breath is the same on both sides. And so maybe 10 breaths a minute, something like that. About 90 seconds left. Settle in. What I like about the timer is you can really start to see the difference between the sides. I find one side usually flies by, the other side takes forever. And since we know the time is the same, it's really just our perception of time. What makes one side different? Is there an injury? Is the mind wandering? Just notice for you. Slowly bring yourself out. Now we have a few options. So I'm going to take the second leg forward so I can move into Paschimottanasana or caterpillar. If you have low back sensitivity or you just feel done, you're not interested in that version, if you have a spot where you can go and put your legs at the wall, that's a really nice alternative. Or if you don't, you can lie on your back, put a prop under your pelvis, feet to the ceiling. So if the forward fold option is not for you, any sort of way you can either support the spine or stretch the spine, depending on what you're doing. And there's a few of you that may choose to do plow instead, so just make sure not to turn your head. So again, we'll be in some version of a forward fold, either folding forward from here or on your back for 3 minutes. The timer's already going. I still have the prop under my knees. I tend to hyperextend my knees, so this just gives me a little bit of support. And then what I really like to do is put the blocks between my legs, because then I can rest my forehead, and it gives me just a little bit easier of a way to soften. Again, we're not trying to activate anything. We want the body to surrender. So feet might flop open. I know that's a no-no in vinyasa, but for here it's fine. If you're using props, you might eventually be able to lower them. The body is responding. Last 90 seconds. All right, your last couple breaths. come out, see how you're feeling. By the way, I'd love feedback how you like the timer. I used to use them in my classes all the time, and then I ended up needing to use my phone for music. So now we don't have music. I'm able to use the timer again. So, but I'd love to hear any feedback you have. Okay, so moving into the beach over Dragonfly. So I happen to already have my blanket. I turn sideways. I like props, obviously, so I just have them available. And we're going to be here for about 5 minutes. I'm going to change a few things. So let me, not super professional. Insight timer. Okay. So we'll do about 3 minutes or so, and then we'll add on. So when the timer goes off, don't make changes. Okay, so as you shift forward, and again, you may have already had legs up the wall. You might want to split your legs off to the side. If you don't want to do this as a forward fold, you can do this on your back. And then I find sometimes, I hyperextend my knees. You might find a similar issue. And so what you can do if you hyperextend and you happen to have a blanket is I usually unfold it so it's wide, and then you can just roll it up. This could be towels. You have towels at home. You can do that. And then you can slide this underneath the knees. And it's just a really great way to give your knees a little bit of a break. I think I'm okay today, though. I did it enough in my last poses. So anyway, so find the place where you're comfortable here. Shifting forward. Again, when the timer goes off in a couple minutes, just stay as you are. We're going to add to this pose. So appreciating you coming to visit me in my home and practice along with me. I've missed a lot of you. And I think a lot of our practice, whether it be on the mat or off the mat, is learning to adapt to change. And so I think this is a really nice way to sort of apply yoga off the mat. How do we make changes to the things that we normally do? So you might normally come to practice on a Friday night with me, but instead we're doing it, virtually. So I think it's great. We learn to adapt. We learn to go with the flow. All right. 5 breaths left. Again, when the timer goes off, don't go anywhere unless you need to, of course. When the timer goes off, we're going to move into a lateral stretch. So if you were at the wall and your legs are at the wall, you can do banana asana lying on your back, and it's just how it sounds. You sort of create a banana shape with your side body, or you can do this like from Shavasana, just getting into the side body. So we're going to come up, and then if you're staying in this pose, you can just take a block or prop inside of the right leg. We're just going to stretch the lateral body. So I'm going to set my elbow down onto that prop on the inside. It might be on your thigh. You might be getting creative with how to do this. I like to just set my temple in my hand and then take the other arm and drape it over the ear so that you can get into the side body or any side body stretch. You have to lower the prop or make other adjustments. If it's extreme to have this top arm overhead, maybe it bothers the shoulder or it just feels like it's a little bit too much, you can rest that hand. You can also bend the leg that you're not leaning towards. So again, there's lots of options. Target area is side body. however you need to get into that. And as all of our other poses, you might find yourself lowering or removing the props. Some of you might eventually even reach for your foot. And you can stay with this side body work, especially if you're in an alternative pose. Otherwise, you can place a hand on either side of that right leg. Look towards the leg like you're going to fold over it. You can stay there or you can lower. You can place your elbows on your blocks or props, whatever you like. How are you doing with these longer holds? Are you able to stay present or getting distracted? Even if you are, no big deal. It's one moment by moment. Come back, find your breath. And last 5 breaths. My goodness. All right, come to center. And then we're going to do the other side. So lateral stretch. If this other leg feels like it's been extreme, you can bend it. You can always make changes. We're just focused on the other side. I'm going to keep it the same just so that my body's doing the same thing on both sides. So again, move to your left leg or however you're moving into your side body stretch. And you've got time. Do about 3 minutes as well. So 1.5 minutes each for the side angle and then the forward fold. The good news is we're on our back after this. And sides are different, so don't try to get into the pose. Let your pose get into you. Let your body tell you when you're in the right place instead of your mind. So breathe into it. What makes this side different? And no judgment. We're really learning to be the witness here, not the judge. How do you observe sensation, experience, without having to get involved? Just simply notice. You can stay with the side body work, or you can turn and move more into your twisting forward hold over the left leg. Again, any variations of this are fine. About 5 more breaths. Go ahead and bring yourself out of your pose. And then go slow. We've been here a while. And we're going to find our way to our back in a moment, but I'd like to get a little bit set up. So if you have props, grab what you have. So I'm just going to demo with these on different sides. So you might have 2 blocks for either side. You might have a couple of blankets you could use in lieu of a bolster, or you might have a bolster. I'm going to use almost everything except for the blocks right now, just so that you can see or have an idea of what you want to do. If you have a strap, grab it. Again, not necessary. You can use a belt, or you can find other forms to do this. We're going to end with final stretch. So I have a really big loop in my strap. I like this because it's the least amount of me having to hold on to anything. So I'm going to take this loop behind my body, and I'm just going to bring it as high up along the armpits as I can. I'm going to move this bolster as close to my other hip as I can, since I'm using both props more as a visual for you. Okay, so I'm on my back. Strap goes over the right foot. Now you could simply just hold the strap. You could loop it. Some of you have some other nice fun looping techniques I've showed you, or you're just holding the leg. So target area is getting to the hamstrings. We're not going to be here long. We've done this work. Again, make sure that strap is as high up on the armpits as you can. I like to just take a few breaths, really feel the back body drop in. We've done a lot of forward folds, and depending on what's happening in your low back, it may just need a minute to stabilize and rest. And then I have a prop next to my right hip. So I just happen to have a bolster. This could be a block, a couple of blankets, where we're going to either take straps into the right hand if you're holding them, or just let your legs slide off to the right, moving into the inner thigh. I'm not going to use the timer on this one. I'll just count my breath. And if you're counting, we're counting 10 breaths. And then bring your leg to the center. Go slow. And then cross the leg over. And actually, I guess I could have used my block, but that's okay. So as you cross the leg over, you either have both straps in your left hand, or you still have the little strap that I've got over the body. You can put props underneath the leg. Maybe I'll use my blanket since they're there, but just enjoying a nice finishing twist. We'll be here about 10 breaths or so. Great. Go ahead and bring yourself up. And put your left foot into the strap, right leg lowers. Whatever prop that you have near your left hip, go ahead and use that. You don't have to use props. I'm a big fan of using support. I find sometimes our work is not to go deeper, to back off some is usually a little bit more appropriate. So again, just let the body settle on this side. And if you haven't already, open the leg to the left. Again, any way that works for you, with or without a strap, with or without props. We're here about 10 breaths. Bring your leg to center. Cross it over, whatever made the most sense for you. And maybe use a prop to rest your foot. No. See, here's a good example. This side is not as open for me. All right, bring yourself to center. Remove your strap if you have it. Finish with happy baby. Just a moment to get some nice balance between the sides. Bring your knees together. Give yourself a nice hug. And then let's get ourselves set up for Shavasana. So whatever that looks like for you, I have all these props, so I'm going to use them. You can do whatever works in your space. So I like to do different Shavasanas each time. It's just a nice way to sort of see how the body is feeling. I'm going to use the timer. That way we're not worried about Shavasana. We know that I'm pulling you out. We'll do about a 3-minute Shavasana as well. So I have a bolster under my knees. I just put the blocks under my feet. And then I'm going to use these blankets over my pelvis, which is one of my favorite. It's like using a sandbag. I've got a couple of those as well. All right, so find your way into your Shavasana. Maybe you even have an eye pillow. Close the eyes. Just check into the body. Do you feel a little less anxious? Do you feel a bit more embodied, a bit more grounded? Can you feel the fluidity around the body? Those channels are open. Enjoy the breath. Shavasana. Start to come back in the body, moving fingers and toes. Arms overhead, yawn. Bend your knees. Make your way onto your side. A moment to pause. And then press yourself upright. Find your final seat. Hands to your heart in gratitude. Yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. Namaste.